Well, this certainly felt like it came out of nowhere. So, evidently, there is a Hellboy reboot in the works. Not third film in the series, but flat out reboot. Now, my initial gut reaction to seeing that was boo. Wasn't a fan of that because I really like the first Hellboy. I love the second Hellboy. I really like the animated ones that they had where they brought back the cast from the movies to voice the characters in animation. I really like the stamp that Guillermo del Toro put on this franchise, and I really like what he gave us. So the idea of somebody else coming in and just rebooting the thing instead of us getting the third film that the second one set up and we're never gonna get, I'm not thrilled by that. Although, I mean, look, if I have to be honest, it's not like this suddenly replaces a third film. Various people involved in the franchise have said repeatedly a third film either probably or definitely won't happen. I mean, it was a vague hope at best that suddenly the stars would align and everything would change. So while it does annoy me that this is the firm nail in that coffin, and now no matter what, even if everybody's schedule freed up and the money was there and whatever else, that it's now just not going to happen because it'll be a rebooted franchise going, I need to be realistic about how likely that was to even happen, which was incredibly unlikely. So if I set that aside and I actually look at the news and what it says, oh, okay. First up, the director, Neil Marshall. That's a pretty solid pick. He's done some great movies, some great horror-tinged movies. He did Dog Soldiers, which I like a lot, and he really had great camaraderie between the characters in that, and that's going to be key. That's really important to Hellboy. I would say actually even more so than Monsters, but Neil Marshall also did The Descent, which shows he can do monsters. He's better known at this point for his TV work. He worked on Game of Thrones. He did Blackwater. He did, I forget what the actual name of the episode was, but the sort of the assault on the wall, those were his. So, you know, he's good, and he's been working in TV for a while. I'd like to see him come back to movies, so that's solid. The name that's been tossed out in relation to playing Hellboy himself is David Harbour. Now, at this point, he is best known as the sheriff in Stranger Things, and honestly, that's a solid pick. He's got, you know, kind of that blue-collar guy feel to him, which is exactly what Hellboy needs. It's what Ron Perlman brought to it. And as much as I love Ron Perlman, the guy's getting up there in age. It's a lot to ask him to put all that stuff on still at this point. So David Harbour, you know, good pick. Actually, I had really hoped that he was going to get nailed down for Cable for the Deadpool sequel. He was rumored for a while, and I thought he would have been a better pick than Josh Brolin. But anyway, moving off that. So that stuff, though, it's all solid. The one thing that I'm a little bit more iffy on is they're saying it's going to be R-rated. Now, I know that right now, like, R-rated comic book movie, woo, is kind of the thing going on within, you know, geek movie fan circles. But I don't think it's automatically the best thing in the world. And now, I think about Hellboy, and I'm like, what about this requires an R rating, especially when you can look at what Guillermo del Toro was able to do with his Hellboy movies and go, that really is Hellboy. I never watched those movies, especially the second one, thinking, man, he's being held back by the rating. Because, you know, there's violence in Hellboy, certainly. But first of all, in terms of, you look at the comic book page in the original, the art is so stylized, it's never gory. Lots of people die, but it's stylized in a way that softens it. And that's just, you know, Mike Mignola style. But that's me saying gore is not intrinsic to the property. And you look at what Guillermo del Toro did, and it really kind of shows the fights, the action, the fights. It's with monsters, and you know, whether you consider this fair or stupid, violence perpetrated against monsters doesn't get you an R rating. Violence perpetrated against human beings, realistic violence, that gets you an R rating, and that doesn't have a place in Hellboy, as far as I'm concerned. Or at least it's certainly not a requirement. I mean, I show into Hellboy to watch monsters beat the crap out of monsters, not humans get eviscerated like it's a slasher movie. So I think about why would you actually have it R-rated, and I'm coming up a little short, because the things that you could push harder versus what we already saw to make it R-rated, I'm like, none of that is necessary to Hellboy. Like, the only thing I can think of is if they're just going for a more flat-out horror tone and they're trying to get an R rating kind of on the basis of the Conjuring movies getting an R rating, which is this idea of, oh, it's so scary, we don't want younger people to see it. That, maybe. But even that, I'm kind of like, Hellboy is set in a scary world with scary creatures, but they're not necessarily horror stories themselves, because, you know, your hero is a huge red guy with a big fist that you know can punch his way out of the situation. So that sort of intentionally subverts the horrific situation. So it's not meant to feel as terrifying as, you know, something that you would want an R rating to have. That said, that's not me saying that it shouldn't be R rated. I'm not like going, no, it'd be wrong to be R rated. I'm just saying the things that you would normally add to a film to get an R rating, I don't think they're needed. I don't think Hellboy requires any of that. But, you know, overall, this is pretty good news. This all spilled forth very suddenly, and I think it was Mike Mignola himself through Facebook that had announced all this. So, I mean, obviously he's close to all this and would be a guy who would know. Well, we would hope. So there may be more information coming quickly, but that's a lot of stuff that has been lined up and put in place that we didn't know about. That's kind of nice. You know, we live in a time when every single point of the production and the development gets drip fed to us, and in a way that kind of makes it all a little bit harder to get excited about, because you have to get excited about, you know, the property being licensed, and then try and get excited again when a director gets attached, and then a writer, and then a star, and then a supporting actor, and another, because we just get these single drips. So to have sort of 3 big pieces of information about this come out at once, that's nice. I mean, that shows it further along than I would have thought, which I think helps sell the idea that this might actually happen, because I think we spent so long crossing our fingers for Hellboy 3 and that went nowhere. They kind of needed to show us that this is further along than just talking about it. So, Hellboy Reboot. Your thoughts on the thing, whatever they are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, check me out on Twitter at Council of Geeks. Give a listen to the Council of Geeks or the Punch Like a Girl podcast, both available on iTunes and Stitcher. And until next time, this council is adjourned.